for the only segment on this podcast who went in two-footed. Now, normally it is a gimmick. It is a funny segment, but I feel like it's important to talk about it because of the high-profile nature of it. A lot of you would have seen. It came out yesterday, as we're recording this, that Mason Greenwood has been accused of sexual assault, I think domestic abuse as well, and rape on his former partner. There's been obviously photos circulating the internet, an audio clip circulating the internet. It's absolutely abhorrent what has been accused of him, and it's really the worst of the worst, isn't it?
I mean, you're innocent until proven guilty, but based on the evidence alone and the reaction, and also the girl in question's dad made a statement as well this morning as well, which pretty much sewed it away that it is fact. United retracted their original statement and stood him down, which is another clear indication that United know. I think this shows the greater picture as well. You look at the reaction, particularly from the media, in some parts of the media saying things like Mason Greenwood, young players, ruined his career.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, he hasn't ruined his career. Think about that poor young girl and what he's done there. Like, if Mason Greenwood has done this, United, as a fan of them, have to sack him. Have to sack him. I don't want him playing again. If Ched Evans got accused of rape, got made guilty, which then turned out to be false, and his career was gone until he was 30.
Yeah.
We have to take a stand. We have to take a stand. And yeah, talented footballer, but if you break the law of this severity, especially with United's foundations that push this, they have to make a message that this is not acceptable. And some of the comments make me sick. Like, why don't United educate their players? You can't hide behind that. Yeah. It's a simple human instinct not to do it. You have to make the statement for the young kids out there that this is not acceptable. Yes, it's a mistake, but it's a pretty big mistake, and he needs to pay the price.
Yeah, I think I fully agree with your statements. Obviously, Mason Greenwood is the high-profile name, but there obviously is a victim, and my heart goes out to her and her family, because obviously this is the absolute worst a human can go through. And I think this shows how we idolize some players, yet we don't really know them at all. And I was completely shocked and completely mortified when I saw the photos and I read what has been accused of happening. But like you said, a jury of 10-year-olds could probably have this open and shut within 10 minutes. So
when you hear that voice message as well, that's shocking. The worst. That is a human being that probably deserves to lose the right to be a human being, because that is a sick, twisted individual. And players have been banned for less. These accusations, rape, domestic abuse, they are huge. And when you add that voice message to it, that's not a guy that has had a moment of rage. That's cold and calculated. And I guarantee it's a repeat offence. This isn't the first time. You look at what he did on duty in Iceland as well. Yeah. It shows that this kid has no sense of decency. And I really hope United take it on the chin and say, okay, we could sell him and make 30 million, but this is bigger than that. The statement is bigger, because if you start letting him off and giving him gradients, we talk about rape culture and the responsibility men have. I saw that this week in the male reaction to it. Yeah. They've got to make a statement that this is not acceptable. We don't have this in professional sport, and get rid of him, let him go off, think about what he's done. And if he comes back and works his way up through the leagues 5, 6, 7 years after he's done the prison time he needs to do, so be it. But for now, United have to make a stand. And I hope United make a stand before he's guilty. Yeah. Before he's guilty, and actually say, look, we're washing our hands with it. This isn't acceptable.
Yeah. Obviously, I think, like you said, innocent till proven guilty. But the only response is sack him immediately. Yeah, I think you have to acknowledge it because it's so high profile. But you sack him, you say, like, you try and be the club that you are meant to be in this case, and don't shy away from it. Don't try and skirm your way out of it. Take it on the chin, like you said, and really address the facts, because it was quite shocking. Realizing what had happened and figuring it out, it was abhorrent.
I think for a club like Manchester as well, local boy Mason Greenwood, hero to many, comes from the council estate. He's done it the hard way. He's the proper working class hero for a young boy, someone that's grown up in the poorer areas and got to where he is through hard work and endeavour. If you don't make a statement from him, that is a huge, huge warning sign for them young boys. Young boys need to look up to someone. And I think when you've got David De Gea, Cristiano Ronaldo this morning unfollowing him.
Yeah, Marcus Rashford as well.
That's a clear sign to me that them players are around him every day. They'll know what he's capable of. It's got to be done. And it's harsh, but he needs to be fed to the wolves and deal with the consequences of his actions and not be protected by a big conglomerate like United, because there's been cases in the Premier League. These big clubs can make these problems go away. Yeah. And I think for the sake of humanity, United need to pull their support away from him and say, look, we're not going to influence this decision. We stand with the lady in question and what's right.
Yeah. Do you also think that United need to publicly denounce him as a let's say character, but as a person within the United walls? Do they need to make a public statement to denounce him and what he's done?
Yeah, I think they have to fire him. They have to terminate his contract and say that this is not acceptable. We've done this because this is not what our club stands for. It's not the image we project, and it's not what we expect of our footballers. And United has been a pillar of the English community for 20, 30 years. Going right back to the Busby Babes, they are in English folklore. They have to lead the way here of what happens. You've got Man City dilly-dallying with Mendy, which I think is just ridiculous, because Mendy every week there's a new lady coming out of the woodwork saying he's done this. Like, that guy's charges are going up the longer he's in prison. Yeah, you've got to just make the statement, say, look, this is what we stand for as a club, and set a precedent to the rest of the team of what's expected, that we won't accept this. Yeah. Because otherwise it gets to the stage where that United name can kind of disassociate it and make it look less worse than it is. These are huge accusations, and if you or I had done it, we'd be in jail. Yeah. So he has to take the punishment.
Yeah. It's also becoming increasingly concerning the rate at footballers are being caught up in these like shocking scandals, obviously, like you said, with Mendy. And do you think there's something systematically wrong with the way young footballers have been brought up in terms of just the culture around it? That obviously this is on a personal level, this is the worst thing, but when money and fame and the feeling of being invincible come together, does that just make for a recipe of disaster?
I genuinely think it's never changed for maybe 100 years. I think what has changed, and you look at like the Harvey Weinstein case, I think what's happened now is women are more empowered. Women are more strong. Women are more brave. And there's a lot easier way for women to put the message out there than before, when it was a load of men in the press box who could just make it go away. I think now women are in position to make these statements. Social media is a wonderful thing, because now no one can edit that. Women can get, like, I reckon 30 years ago, if this young girl had gone to the Daily Mail, someone would have paid off a journalist, paid off her, the story would have disappeared and we'd never hear about it. Yeah. I think that's the only thing that's changed. And I think this is a warning sign now to these young players that we do put them on a pedestal. Like, Mason Greenwood last year was compared to CR7. And I kept saying it at the time, what's he done? He's scored a couple of good goals and he's broken into the first team with no one around him. Yeah, it's not impressive. It's the nature of the beast. I think now what we're seeing is people are being called out for their actions. So this is now a job for the FA and the Premier League to make statements and say, we're not 1980s football anymore. We're 2022 football. We don't stand for this. There is a degree of social responsibility these players have got. I don't want them to be angels, but I'm asking for basic principles. Like, this is a serious, serious offence. This isn't going out on the beers trading Friday morning. This is serious, and they need to stamp it out.
Yeah, fully agree. I think you've hit the nail on the head with everything you've said there. Obviously, our hearts go out to the victim involved, because the worst thing that could possibly happen to a human.